I've been contemplating for years till I finally decided that I would leave my corporate position and start my own business. But starting a business right away was not exactly the best decision. And today I want to share exactly why. When I finally quit the job, I gave up the stability. I thought that I was ready. I was ambitious, I was full of plans, and I knew that I'm leaving the place because I am meant for more. I was so resilient, or at least that's what I thought, and I had plenty of skills that I knew I could build a business on. But here's one thing that I didn't necessarily consider. When you leave the corporate world, you're not just leaving a job, a title, and a way of life. You're bringing with you a certain mindset, a certain way of thinking, and a certain way of communicating with others that's only suitable in the corporate environment and otherwise pretty useless in life. When I quit my job, I thought I was ready. I was ambitious, I was hardworking, and I had so many skills that I know I could use to build a whole business on. But there's one thing that I completely missed. And that is when you leave a corporate career, you take with you a certain mindset, a certain way of thinking and doing business. And that might not be useful when it comes to entrepreneurship. The truth is, I didn't give myself enough time to pause and to really think about what I want to do in my life. I gave myself no time to reevaluate what's important for me or what isn't. So I did what I felt like I was supposed to do. I jumped right into building something new. And that decision has changed my life forever. Today, I wanted to share with you the 4 mistakes that I've made when I started my own business. Mistake number 1, I built on something that I knew and not on something that I loved. To give you a little bit of a context, I started my first business out of my corporate career based on the skills that I've learned in my corporate career. Those were things that I knew I was really good at. They were familiar, but not things that I was inherently interested in. Looking back, I see that the mistake I made was that I built something on knowledge, on things that I've learned and things that are easily learnable by others as well. And what I didn't do is I didn't think of the passion side of the coin. I greatly underappreciated the fact that at least a little bit of passion is needed to build a business in order for that business to be sustainable on the longer term. Today I know that passion is like fuel to the machinery. Without it, even if you're good at something, it feels like you're just dragging yourself in the mud. And that is eerily similar to having a job that you don't necessarily like. The second mistake I made was that I was communicating like a corporate robot. I was overly formal in everything, the way I was speaking to clients, the way I was writing my emails, how I came up with my marketing. It really felt like I'm still just running the corporate program in my brain and speaking off of a script. Corporate culture is very interesting in this sense because there's so many expressions, so many words that we only use in the corporate setting and otherwise sounds like a new language. And honestly, all my life I've been taught that these words, this vocabulary would make me sound like a professional, that this is what's showing credibility and the fact that you belong to that world. I thought this would make me trustworthy, but in reality, it just made a huge disconnect between me and my potential clients. And people did point that out to me, that I was coming off a little bit distant and unapproachable. Today, what I'm doing is I'm trying to speak to my customers or have text on my website written in a way as if I was speaking to them. A little bit quirky, a little bit funny, just trying to reflect the person who I really am. And I truly believe that when you do that, when you are authentic in your messaging, you are attracting your tribe. If you're interested in this topic, I actually just made a video last week about this. I'm going to link it here. Go ahead, check it out. The third mistake that I made was that I made doing business too complicated. I brought the bureaucratic, overly documented, overly processized mindset from the corporate world, and I was trying to put that into my entrepreneurial journey. Because this was something that I knew like this. It was like a routine. Setting up a contract management system, writing different agreements. Even before ChatGPT was widely available, I knew how to do these things because I had to do these things. I was handling legal documents. I was negotiating sales contracts. It was really like I was trying to just mimic these systems, put them into my business, but they just didn't fit. It was a shock to me to see how easily people do business. Some contracts are literally just one-pagers, whereas in my corporate life, we wrote sometimes even a 50-page long agreement with all the appendix and different attachments. And it took me a while to realize that my clients were not looking for this kind of over-documentation. I thought I'm providing some security for them, but in reality, let's just call it for what it is. It's red tape. So what I did instead is I kept a lot of the systems, but I simplified them to 1 or 2 steps and made sure that we're only stating the absolute most important, most critical parts of our agreement. And in this way, I made it so much easier for my clients to work with me. The fourth mistake that I made, and probably this was the hardest part, was I shut down my creativity. Mentally, I already knew how to start a business from the ground up. I already have done that before my corporate career, even during. Plus, that was what I was doing for a living for others. I worked as a business consultant. I was constantly setting up either brand new businesses or new branches of businesses. And because I already had this checklist memorized, I didn't even have to think about it. I went straight into doing mode. I went straight into my masculine. I was so focused on doing things the right way that I completely forgot to listen to my instincts. I realized that I was still in employee mode and I was waiting for permission to give myself permission to be creative. So the way that I managed to overcome that is to look into business models that I've never worked with before. Areas where I would have to push myself to learn more and to figure out how to run said business. But I can tell you that this was hell of a process. And these 4 mistakes were kind of separate from each other. At least in my mind, I didn't put the puzzle together at that point. It took me well over a year to realize what was happening to me and what I was doing to myself. I really had to take some time away from doing any sort of business activities. I closed down the first business to do a very deep self-reflection exercise that took a couple of months to realize and to understand who I am beyond work. What's the thing that I actually care about that's outside of the confinements of an office? What are the things that whenever they come up in my life in very distinct times, still light the same flame up in me as they always used to? And that kind of reflection was very difficult to go through. But what it gave me was clarity. And that clarity gave me so much confidence in what my road ahead is that I haven't budged ever since. And today I look at the first business I started right after leaving my corporate job, and I'm really grateful that I walked away from it. Because I know that that business was not built on authenticity or my passion. It was built on skills that I've acquired in my corporate life. So if you're in that place, maybe you have just left your career to start your own business, or maybe you've started your own business and realizing that this is not the business of your dreams. There's only one advice I can give you, and that is take some time to reflect. If you think through all of the points I mentioned in this video with intention and give yourself some time to have genuine reflection over them, you'll be able to see what are the things that you also have to unlearn because they don't serve you anymore. And the biggest takeaway I have from this experience is that building a business is not necessarily about what you know, but more importantly, what you care about. And also, you shouldn't forget that if you already gave up the security of a job, try to build a business that supports the lifestyle that you would like to have. But more on that in a future video. If anything in this video has resonated with you, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up or leave any of your thoughts in the comment below. It helps a small creator like myself to see what you're interested in hearing more about. And with that, I wanted to say thank you for listening to me today, and I will see you in the next video.